So a while back, I made a video on whether you should buy, finance, or lease a car, and it became one of the most watched videos on this channel. Because on one side, you've got people arguing that buying the car outright is always the best move because you get full ownership and it works out cheaper in the long run. But on the other side, you've got people who still swear by financing or leasing because you pay far less each month and you get to drive around a brand new car. And thousands of you have said that you saved money from watching that video before buying. But a lot's changed since then. So I went back, I reran every single number from scratch, and I was pretty surprised by what I found, including one option that I never mentioned last time, one that almost nobody at the dealership will bring up either, because there's nothing in it for them. So in this video, we're going to cover the 5 main ways to pay for a car, what each one actually is, which one works out the cheapest, and finally, the psychological factors you need to weigh up before you decide. This is a part of an Accountant Explained series on this channel where every Sunday we break down all things personal finance and building wealth. Let's dive in. Before we compare the numbers, let's quickly go through the main options that you have available when buying a car and how they work. Let's start with hire purchase. If you'd like to own your car, but you don't have the cash to buy it outright today, you probably would look at this option, a hire purchase. It's essentially buying a car in installments. So you put down an initial deposit, say 10, 20%, and then you spread the rest of the cost over several years, making fixed monthly payments. Once you've made the final repayment, the car is yours to keep. The downside is that you'll usually pay interest on the amount you've borrowed, meaning you'll end up paying more than the car's original price. The next option you have is a PCP or a personal contract purchase. And if your priority is keeping your monthly payments low, you might feel like this is the better option. With a PCP, you're not paying off the whole car. Instead, you're mainly paying for the amount the car is expected to lose in value during the time that you have it. So again, you'll put down an initial deposit and make monthly payments. And you're also told at that time the car's residual value, i.e. how much it'll be worth at the end of the agreement. So your payments will stop once you reach the end of your agreement, and at that time, you have 3 options. You could pay that residual value to make that car yours. You can choose to hand that car back and not pay a single additional penny. Or if the car's actually worth more than the residual value at that time, you can trade it in and put that extra value, which is the equity, towards your next car. So the payments for this are usually lower than the option in hire purchase, but you don't automatically own the car at the end. And as I'll show you in a minute, a lower monthly payment doesn't actually automatically make something cheaper either. The third option you have is leasing. So if you enjoy driving a brand new car every few years and you don't want to be responsible for any repairs, you don't want the hassle of selling it later on, you might think leasing can be a great fit. Because since you're not buying the car, you won't need a deposit in the traditional sense. Instead, you'll put down what's known as an initial payment, which is usually much lower than the deposit of a hire purchase or what you'd have to pay for a PCP. Once you reach the end of your term, there'll be nothing left to pay. You'll simply hand the keys back, and then it's up to you whether you then lease another car or you use one of the other options that I talk about today. The fourth option, which I never mentioned in my last video, and it's one that almost nobody at the dealership will mention either. This is a personal loan. This is where you borrow the money from a bank or a lender directly, totally separate from the dealership and the car itself. And then you use that money that you borrowed to buy the car outright. So the day you drive off that car, you fully own it, and then you pay the bank back in monthly fixed payments with interest over the years of how long you've agreed with the bank. The rates for a personal loan are often cheaper, which is why this can make a lot of sense. But there are also times when a car dealership is running one of their low interest promotions, which may make buying a car from a car dealership and using the finance available from a car dealership actually more cost effective. So whilst I'm not going to include this in the calculations for the next stage, it is such an important one to consider and when running the different options for yourself. But the interest rate really depends on who you are, your credit score, and the kind of term that you're looking at. And then you have the fifth option, which is buying outright. If you've got the cash available, buying outright is often the most straightforward option. You pay once, you own the car immediately. You never have to worry about monthly payments or any interest again for that car. So now that we've got that aside, let's dig a little bit deeper and put each of these options head to head to find out which one is going to be the best one for you when it comes to the numbers. So to keep things fair, let's compare the exact same car under each option. And we'll use the brand new Audi A3 Sportback. It's with a purchase price of £35,000 we're assuming excellent credit and a 4-year ownership period. So without using too much jargon, I've tried to keep it as simple as possible for you to follow. And I'm using real examples of what you'd actually pay today for the same car using the different financing options that I've just mentioned. So let's start with the number every dealership loves to say first, which is the monthly payment. With hire purchase, after putting down a £3,500 deposit, your monthly repayments come to around £791. With PCP, you'll also put down £3,500 upfront. But because you're not repaying the full purchase price during the agreement, your monthly payment falls to around £545. Then you have leasing, where instead of a deposit, you'll pay an initial rental equivalent to 3 months payment, which in this example works out at around £1,130. After that, your monthly payment is just £377. Finally, if you buy the car outright, there are no monthly payments at all. You simply pay the full £35,000 on day one. So if monthly payments were the only thing that you cared about, leasing would appear to be the cheapest option, followed by PCP. But now let's fast forward 4 years and see what you've actually spent. Over the full agreement, hire purchase costs around $41,500. PCP is a similar ballpark, around $43,815, assuming you make the final balloon payment of £14,700 to keep the car. Leasing, it's much cheaper in terms of cash paid out, costing around £18,830 over the 4 years. And if you buy the car outright, you've spent £35,000 from day one. But that is still not the full picture because, as we said earlier, with hire purchase and PCP and buying outright, you still own the car at the end of those 4 years. So based on average depreciation, which is just the rate a car loses value over time, that Audi could still be worth around £17,000. It may not be, but I'm using this number to illustrate what the different scenarios would be if we could assume this. In this case, it means you could sell it and get a big chunk of your money back. With leasing, you can't do that. You hand the keys back and then there's nothing left to sell because you never owned it in the first place. So the number that actually matters isn't what you paid, it's what the car has truly cost once you take that resale value into account. And once we subtract what you get back from selling it, the whole picture changes again. Buying outright comes out cheapest at a net 4-year cost of around £17,850. Leasing is next at around £18,837. Then hire purchase at £24,318. And then PCP is the most expensive out of the lot at around £26,665. And now, whilst these exact figures won't hold for every car, every deal because of interest rates, resale values, and how manufacturer offers all move around, the principle around it never changes, which is the monthly payment only tells you what leaves your account each month. It tells you nothing about what the car actually costs you to own or whether a different option could have left you thousands of pounds better off in the long run. And something else worth considering here is opportunity costs. If you pay the full £35,000 on day one and you buy the car outright, sure, that would be the cheapest option as we've seen, but there is an opportunity cost because that money is now locked up in that car. Well, locked up, whatever, you know what I mean? The alternative is you put down the £3,500 deposit and then you invest what's left over into something like a low-cost index fund or another asset that earns you a return. And then the question, therefore, is can you make a better return on that money invested than the extra cost that you'd pay of financing? If you can, then financing can actually come out ahead. The word for that gap is arbitrage, which really just means your money is earning more than it's costing you. And on paper, that sounds great, but there are 2 problems with this. First, the interest rate on your debt, it's guaranteed. You know exactly what it's costing you. The return on the stock market is anything but, especially in the short term. It swings around 1 year to the next. So there's no way to make a very clean, accurate mathematical decision here. You're weighing a fixed cost against an unpredictable short-term return. And the second thing here is should and actually do are 2 very different things. In theory, you invest that leftover money, sure, and you leave it alone. In reality, for a lot of people, it just melts into everyday spending instead. So those are the numbers. And based purely on the numbers, you might think that buying outright is the obvious answer. But personal finance is personal, and the cheapest option on a spreadsheet isn't automatically the right one for you. So before you decide how to pay for a car, there are 3 questions I'd ask myself. Number 1, are you focusing on the right number? When you're buying or financing a car, the dealership or the broker is going to put almost all the attention on how affordable the monthly payment is. So even if you could afford to buy the car outright, you might be tempted to finance it instead and then keep your cash in the bank. But as we've just seen, the monthly payment doesn't tell you what the car really costs over the life of the agreement. And focusing on it can actually trick you into buying a more expensive car than you ever planned to. Say your budget was $25,000 and the salesperson nudges you towards the one that's £35,000. As a lump sum, when I say those numbers, that is a huge jump. You probably say, no, I'm okay, I don't want that. But when it's framed as just an extra £80 a month, suddenly it doesn't feel like that much. It might even feel like you're getting a bit of a deal. So you always want to look at the bigger picture and not just the monthly payments and when you can afford it, but also the total ownership costs. Number 2, how important is driving a new car to you? And for some people, it might very well be worth paying more for the latest safety features, for a manufacturer's warranty, for lower maintenance costs, or just the enjoyment of driving something new. Nothing wrong with that, as long as you're choosing it consciously rather than being talked into it. But on the flip side, if you're the kind of person who keeps a car for the next 10 years, buying often becomes far better value because you're spreading that big upfront drop in value over a much longer period. And number 3, how does this car actually fit against my other financial goals? Whether you're buying it outright or whether you're paying in monthly installments, you always want to weigh up how it fits within the holistic financial picture. How does it weigh up against your other fundamentals, things like your rent, your mortgage, your bills? How does it weigh up against your savings and investments? Does it still give you enough left over? How does it weigh up against other things that you spend on daily that contribute as fun? Does it still give you enough left over to spend on the fun stuff? Or are you willing to sacrifice a little bit of the fun spending to go a bit more premium on your car? This is the kind of thing you could run through very quickly. I recommend using my intentional spending tracker because it's already categorized into buckets. Anytime I want to buy something big or take on any kind of credit, this is the philosophy I always work with. And within seconds, I know exactly where I stand and what I can actually afford and where I want to cut back. If you want to use my one, it's completely free. It's linked in the description. So before you sign any finance agreement, I'd run through 4 questions. First, how long am I realistically planning to keep this car? Secondly, am I prioritizing a lower monthly payment or a lower long-term cost? Third, how much do the latest features, a warranty, and the convenience of a newer car actually matter to me? And fourth, will this decision still let me build the other priorities that are important in my life? These 4 questions will get you to a far better decision than the one everyone else is stuck on, which is just, can I afford the monthly payment? If you get them right, you'll never end up being caught out by a shiny monthly figure in a car dealership window again. Hopefully this helps. If it does help, please send it to someone you know who's also looking at buying a new car. I've had so many people say the last video I made helped on this topic so much. So I've made an updated version for anyone who's in the same position right now. And hopefully it again saves you lots of money before you buy one of the most expensive purchases of your life. Thanks so much for watching. See you next week.